In this case, it doesn't seem like the client really loves the temp track that they sent, but oftentimes the client does love the temp track and feels that it works perfectly with the picture. In many cases, however, the client just can't get that particular temp track, especially if it's something by a mega superstar act like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin, where the cost is prohibitive. In these situations, the client will often ask you to get very close to the temp track without infringing on the copyright, and that can be a very tricky thing to pull off. Most likely, the client has developed what is referred to as demo love and has become so used to hearing the temp track against picture that almost anything else will come off as feeling inferior to it. In these cases, once you've created your track, the agency or music house will most likely send it off to a musicologist to determine if you've come too close and if there could be any potential legal issues. Musicologists will listen to your track and compare it to the temp track to judge their similarities and differences. There are a couple of things you can do to deal with this scenario. The first thing you want to do is thoroughly understand how the temp track works so you can permutate all its elements like melody, harmony, and rhythm. The goal here is to maintain the vibe of the temp, yet create something that can be considered new and different. Musicologists will look at your track in two basic ways. One is to find the percentage of similarities between your track and the temp. So they'll look at the notes of the melody, for example, and figure out how many of the intervallic relationships are similar. And the other way is to determine if your track can be considered to have intent, in copying the temp track, that is. In other words, maybe there aren't so many mathematical similarities between the two tracks, but your track uses a lot of the same instrumentation, playing the same type of parts in the same type of style. The temp track for our Jello spot uses three major chords. The 1 chord, which is G major, the 5 chord, which is D major, and the 4 chord, which is C major. Well, there are about 1 million songs that use these chords together in some form or another, so we shouldn't really run into a problem by sticking with this chord progression. Still, though, I'm going to permutate the order of the progression for our track and go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord and then to the 5 chord. In addition, I'm going to move away from that surf rock drum beat into a shuffle type of drum beat to make the track swing and become a bit more playful. Now, when you're asked to come close to the temp track, you always want to put your track in a different key, since it's an instant way to create a difference right off the bat. Ordinarily, I'll usually go up a half step or a whole step. Rarely do I go to a lower key, since if they listen to the two tracks back to back, I want them to feel that my track has lifted to a new level from the temp track, rather than become sluggish. So, to sum it up, when the client has demo love, use the temp track to find the vibe that they like, but change its elements enough to satisfy the musicologist. And hopefully, if you do this correctly, nobody's heart will get broken.